the same architecture from west to east. It's not the first time we see large gaps prior to 1850, as if all civilization suddenly sprung up around that time. In Japan, as in old China, there is a distinctly non-Asian presence that exists alongside the Asian one. We see it in pictures where photography and paintings of old buildings was not outlawed. Yokohama in 1874. On the left we see Asian architecture. On the right we see a church. Much of the architecture of old Japan is no different than in the West. If you were in old Tokyo, you could have easily mistaken it for Istanbul, Paris, London, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Melbourne, Kazan or Omsk. A star fort in Japan, an old 1669 picture of Hirado, Japan. Here we actually see distinctly Asian architecture of curved roofs, matching the Japanese-sounding town name. The city of Osaka in 1680, the city of Edo, fully developed in 1680. Edo would later become Toiko. A 1600s image said to show a Japanese marriage ceremony. See also my piece titled Pavilions Harvested Free Energy. Compare the Japanese pavilion with the European one, see image in link. There is a figure holding a rod or wand in both pictures. We see antenna-like forms on both. Notice the two devices of unknown purpose inside the pavilion. There is one outside of it. If the pavilion's purpose were to provide shade, as mainstream historians claim, then why do you need two more shade-providing umbrellas inside it? I believe getting shade is not the primary purpose here. The primary purpose is related to energy, either electricity or atmospheric energy or spiritual energy along the lines of radionics. Notice the ceremonial fires placed around the pavilion. These are much more than just a place to catch some shade, a country of large castles. The Himeji Castle complex is an impressive work of Asian architecture that still stands today at the town of same name. It is said to have been built in 1333 and rebuilt in 1346 and remodeled in 1581 and again rebuilt in 1601. Himeji, incidentally, is ancient German for Himeji, heaven energy. I show you this because Tokyo, Edo, appears to have been built the same way. A map of 1600s. Edo, the structure on the right with its huge walls, waterways resembles Himeji. Here's the castle of Osaka in 1669. The picture is titled Siege of Osaka Castle. If you look at old maps in detail, you realize all towns and cities looked like this. We are looking at a mind-boggling feat of engineering and construction at a time the people supposedly only had hammer and chisel. Even more astonishing, the whole world looked this way. Not only Europe, as Hollywood propaganda and academia tell us, Africa had castles, Australia had them, South America had castles, Japan had castles, there were castles in Siberia as well. All you have to do is look at old maps to see the many castle towns across the globe. Tens of thousands. It was the standard way of building a town, extraterrestrial royalty. As in Ethiopia, Egypt and other countries, the list of Japanese emperors proves interesting. The Japanese traced their royalty lineage all the way back to their first emperor in the year 721 BC. More than 2,000 years, if the official timeline is to be believed. Of course, the emperor's list contradicts the idea that Japan was not Japanese before 1600. unless the Japanese Empire developed elsewhere. My theory is that Asians originated on several land masses that used to be in the Pacific, but have meanwhile sunken. If that sounds bizarre to you, look into the similarities between Olmec culture in Mexico, right side image, and ancient Japanese culture, left side image. The first emperor, Hekohohodemi or Jimmu, was the son of a kami. Wikipedia can't seem to decide whether the word kami denotes a spirit, a god, a goddess. In Shinto belief, the kami are beings that inhabit a world hidden to humans, another realm. Yes, the old Japanese believed their royal family descend from extraterrestrials. This is still believed by Japanese nationalists today. The specific kami that the first emperor descended from was called Ugaya Fukiaezu. If you've read my book, The Secret of Ancient German, you know that the Japanese language is incorrectly strung together Ancient German. They are sentences made into one word to obscure their origins. For example, in Hikohohodemi. In Ancient German, Hodemi simply means high spirit. The whole sentence is probably something simple like, "Here comes the high spirit." I've shown numerous examples of this elsewhere. Ugayafu kia ezu is no doubt another strung-together sentence, Ugaya fu kia ezu. According to Wikipedia, Ugaya Fukiaezu was a child of Huri, the son of Ninigi no Mikoto, who was sent down by Amaterasu to govern the earth, and of Toyota Mahaim, a daughter of Ryujin, the dragon kami of the sea. Basically, the royalty of Japan believe they are hybrids between submarine reptilian beings and beings from the sky. Ama and Terra are ancient German for water and earth. The ota in Toyota is the ancient German word for outer space or the universe. Ryujin contains the word jin, which is the ancient word for spirit. Ryu is another ancient word for water. So Ryujin simply means water spirit. Decoding languages is super simple. Although Toyota Mahaim became pregnant at the undersea palace of Ryugu-jo, she opted not to bear the child in the ocean and decided to head to shore. On the shore, her parents attempted to build a house in which she could give birth and attempted to construct the roof with feathers of the cormorant instead of saw grass. However, while they were finishing the roof, she went into labor, and so just as she was about to give birth, she spoke to her husband, saying, "When their time draws near, people of other lands all give birth in the form of their homeland. So I will now give birth in my original form. Please, I beg you, do not look at me." Now, thinking these words strange, he sneaked up and peered in at her, just as she was about to give birth. She had become an enormous sea beast many arm spans in length that was twisting and slithering around on its stomach. In shock and fright at the sight of her, he immediately fled far away. More of the relations between Japanese royalty and reptilians in a previous article. The image below was drawn in 1863 by Utagawa Sadahide and titled Defeat of the Mongols in the Western Sea, based on Japanese historical accounts of events in the year 1247 in which the Mongols were defeated with a little help from weaponized beings showing up in the sky. The Mongols are possibly Tartarians. We've seen similar claims of aerial warfare in antiquity reported by the Native Americans, American Tartarians. The Tartarian Empire was a global one that was struck down with the help of aerial warfare. The Romanov family was one of the last remaining Tartarian royalty killed by the Bolsheviks, Melania Trump is descendant from the Romanovs, which probably has something to do with the fact that all this stuff on Tartaria came out after Trump's election in 2016, the 1800s reset in Eastern Asia. A photo of a pagoda in the late 1800s on Tartar Street in Canton. What do you notice? The pagoda is in a state of neglect and overgrown with shrubs, weeds and trees. We find this phenomenon across Asia and many other countries. Buildings that are today tourist attractions or seen as cultural and aesthetic masterpieces completely ignored in the 1800s, as if the world were just coming out of a war, or out of a reset, or hadn't been repopulated yet. It's uncanny. There are drawings of pagodas already overgrown in the 1700s. One wonders how far back the neglect goes. Bronze Temple Wan Shou Shan. If they weren't neglected, they were burned down. Summer Palace Yuanmin Yuan before it burned down. This shot of 1800s, Tokyo reveals there are buildings, but a dirt street, a strange thing noted elsewhere in the world too. In normal city planning, you start with the streets and then do the buildings. This way materials are transported more easily. This plays into mud flood theories. Maybe there is a street, but it is buried under earth. As in every other country I've researched, great fires engulfed Japan in the 1800s. When you realize the great fires happened around the world at around the same time, you realize they were part of a war. You also start to realize that all these meteor showers that people witnessed in the 1800s were not meteors. If these were in fact meteor showers all over the world, and if we had all kinds of great fires by coincidence all over the world, then why don't we see the same in the 1900s and 2000s? I'll leave it at that for now. If you learned something reading this, please share.